Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about steelhead and salmon fishing and what I have in my tackle box. This is kind of like my grab and go tackle box. If I don't have my whole backpack or I don't want to carry like big stuff, this is what I think everyone should have in their backpacks if they're just trying to go out quick, have something to grab and go. I always refill this one as much as I can just to keep it stocked so when I want to go I can just grab it and leave. So we're going to start out with my weights. So I have a variety of cannonball weights right here. And right now I am kind of low on stock, but I have a 1 ounce right here, 1 ounce cannonball. I want to say this is like a ½ ounce. I'm not even sure. The size is it's all tore up. You can't really see. And then I know for a fact this is a 2 ounce. And then along with that, I also have a pyramid weight. I always just have them in there if I'm going to do plunking rig or something, and I'll get into that later in the video. Now, the next couple of weights I have are these like banana weights, and I find these to be best when you're fishing fast-moving rivers and you're trying to set up a flossing rig, and I'll go over the flossing rig later on. And yeah, so those are my weights that I have right there. I always carry some snap swivels in this as well, just because you always need those. I got some bobbers right here that I always do float setups. You kind of have to look at the weight, on how much weight. Like this is a Blue Mac and it's only a ½ ounce. These ones are 1.5 ounce to 2 ounces. So I prefer using the bigger floats just because, I mean, even if you have lighter gear, if you get a fish, you're still going to see it, and it's not really going to affect too much. Well, I mean, it could affect too much. If you're going to put this on and then just try and throw a straight hook, your hook's not going to be presented right away, and it's going to be laying flat like this. But just kind of adjust it accordingly to how you feel and how your bobber looks and the presentation of the bait, especially with the water moving fast. You can't always judge it correctly the first time on how much weight you need. So another thing, like some few rigs I'll talk about with the bobber is, my favorite rig is you go bobber. I don't have the right weights. They're called inline weights that you're supposed to have, but I only have these in here right now, so I got to restock it. But you're going to put your bobber on the main line, but before that you're going to put a bobber stock, which is right here. I like these ones better. There's a bunch of different kind of bobber stops that you can get at stores and anywhere, but I like these ones the best just because they're easier to take off, and I feel like they're more easily adjustable. So you're gonna put your bobber stop on. I like to give like a few feet of space, like 3-4 feet of space on it. I don't know if that's too much. It just depends on the depth of the river that you're fishing in, so you have to adjust it accordingly. That's why I like those ones, because you can adjust them. And the next thing you do is you're gonna tie on a weight, your inline weight. This isn't really the right weight, but I mean it would work. You tie it on right underneath that to your main line, and this part right here, the bottom part, is where you're gonna attach some leader line. And now this leader line, which I like to use when I'm going for steelhead, is 15 pound. I know some people who use 10 pound, a 12 pound, as light as 8 pound, but I like to use 15 pound, the trilene, just because this is like really clear and it works the best for me just from what I've found. But yeah, I like using that brand. It's cheap, it's easy to use, it works good so far from what I've seen. But yeah, and so you're gonna just run that, connect your leader to that. You could tie on anything from just a hook, if you're going to use like bait or something, float eggs or coon shrimp, to using actual jigs like this. You tie them on, or even a jig head. And a lot of mistakes that I see some people make, but this is mostly my opinion oriented. I'm not claiming to be a professional fisherman or know everything, but I always like to have extra weight on, even when I'm fishing with a weighted jig like this head, like a weighted jig head like this, or like if I'm fishing these, I always keep a weight on. Just because when you're moving in when you're in fast water fishing, it always just helps it keep a little bit more stable. And from what I've noticed, it doesn't really affect the presentation of your bait either way. You still get the same strike. It's still looks like everything's the same to me. So another thing you can do with these jig heads is you get these worms right here, steelhead worms. I don't know if I have the bag of the brand. Oh wait, right here. So this is my favorite brand to use, Mad River. Not sponsored by them, but wish I was. So you got these steelhead worms, right? You just hook them on right here, tie this onto your line, and you fish it like that. And every now and then, sometimes what I'll do is, if I'm going through a nice little cove and I'm not getting a bite, I'll just do a little lift on the rod, little movement. And I'll show you guys my rod later on the setup. Right now, it's kind of in a all hands on deck. I broke one of my reels before this, so I didn't have my salmon reel that I wanted to use, but I'll show you another cheap reel that you can use, and it's actually worked well. I've caught kings on them, steelhead, cohos, so it works good. I know it works. Same with the rod. This is kind of like if you're budget fishing, like Walmart, you can buy a pack of these corkies right here. Normally they're expensive at a store because they sell them individually. You can buy a pack of 6 for maybe like $4, $3, which I'm not sure how much that would transfer over into buying them individually. But yeah, so you got your basic float setup all done with. And another one of my favorite rigs are when I want to float down like skein or like coon shrimp on the bottom, and I just want it to like drift down. I'll use these banana weights right here, and I'll tie some leader line on. I'll do it about arm length. You guys can't really see, but I just grab the line and go out like that. I call it good. And what I do is, before I tie my hooks on, I'll slide 1 or 2, depending on how fast the water's moving, depending on how high you need it up, or how big your hook is. That's another big mistake I see people, is they'll use a hook. Let me see if I can find one. They'll get a hook around this size right here, and then they'll try to use a corky around this size right here, and it just doesn't end up working out for them. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is your hook size and how many corkies you need. So yeah, I like these corkies right here. These 2 colors are my favorite. You can get them in any color, shape, or size. Like this one right here is a very big corky compared to this one, which is also a large corky. And this one is considered a large corky compared to this one. So they all come in different sizes and shapes. So it's all up to your determination to figure out what is going to work better. So yeah, you put corkies on before. Some people like to put yarn on it. Honestly, there's not really a crazy trick to tie yarn. Some people tie them on the hook, and that does work, but they try to tie it on all floppy like this. So what I like to do is I like to strain out some stuff, and I almost give it a little bit of twist, because it'll all untwist when it's in the water. It'll all look the same. And I basically, let me get a fishing hook. I'll just put it on like this, essentially. Just do a normal overhand knot like that. So you got that yarn. You just push it up right there. There you go, you got your yarn on your hook. There's a bunch of different methods on how they do it. A thing I still do, but not all the time, is when I'm tying my leaders and my rigs up beforehand, when I'm making the knot, like for instance, Palomar knot, that big loop after you make it through and you're cinching it down, some people will put yarn in there and then cinch it tight, and so it stays on the hook more. But honestly, my overhand knot, I haven't lost yarn. I'm not like in yarn debt or anything. It's worked pretty good for me so far. Yeah, and then honestly, another rig you can use with that like drifting rig basically is you don't even need to use corkies. You can just use normal beads like these. It just depends. It's always good in your like grab and go box to still have a very good bead selection. So I have all these beads right in here. It's just good to, I mean, I have it's good to have a bunch of different sizes and split shots as well. You need it to stay more towards the bottom. But yeah, it's always good to just have those on hand. And yeah, so another thing for like steelhead and stuff is these twitching jigs, the smaller ones, I feel like work better. It's kind of weird. I've caught big steelhead on really small jigs. I don't know if it has to do anything with that, but I've caught my biggest steelhead on the smaller jigs rather than using these bigger jigs right here. I mean, I would use these for like salmon and stuff because salmon go crazy for these jigs too. You could honestly, you don't even need to have like a bobber set up with these guys every single time. I will sometimes just throw a straight jig. Yeah, but what I found is using these, especially on the bobber float system that I was talking about earlier, these things work really good. Or just throwing them straight up. And then again, if you are throwing them straight up and you have braid in your pole, which I know a lot of people do, it's always good to just get some extra line on there. Same with throwing any other lure, like if you're throwing spinners, anything, spoons, anything like that, it's always good to just have that extra leader line to kind of keep that line less visible as much as you can, because the fish are like line shy basically. If they see like some green straight line swimming in front of something they want to eat, they're going to be kind of suspicious of it and not really want to go for it. And that's just, then again, that is also my opinion. Some people have different luck using different things. But yeah, so basically that's it for them. One more thing, your plunking rigs. I always have one of these always pre-tied. It's kind of a mess right now. I haven't used it in a while and it's just been sitting in here. But just because it's summertime right now and the waters aren't really that high. But plunking rigs are really good from what I found. So essentially it's a prop right here. You're gonna, honestly, I can just show you how I make mine. So it's a little prop right here. You're gonna get some line and just go through the front of it, like if you can get the hole. But yeah, you basically just get that, and I like to use smaller beads just because I feel like the smaller beads give it a lot more flexibility. Those are kind of big. Smaller ones right in here. Then again, this is why it's important to have selection when fishing with your beads. I like to have a lot of beads with me just because you never know when you're going to need a lot of beads. Now, some people like to put a lot of the small ones. I like to just use 3 or 4. 5 is the most. I mean, I don't really see a need for 5. But basically, this is what it looks like right here. And you just tie on your hook with whichever knot you like. And that just gives this hook more flexibility. So I guess you could put more if you need more flexibility in your hook. But this is what it'll look like. And it'll spin like this underwater. And the way you rig this up on your pole is you kind of got to get it pre-tied leader like this. I just put a split shot, or not split shot, a snap swivel at the end of mine. And you basically attach like a cannonball weight, or some people use pyramid weights. I prefer to just use a cannonball weight just because I feel like the cannonball weights, they don't get stuck as much in the rocks. And that's kind of like the point of a weight, is to be stuck down to the bottom. But when you're fishing these pyramid weights in all the rocks, like this, essentially what's going to happen is you're going to get caught up more and not be able to retrieve your weights back or your whole setup, if that. And yeah, that's basically it. Let me know in the comments any rigs that you guys have or anything I missed, anything I need to correct or fix. But this is just what works for me. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.